Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. In this video, I will be talking about simple techniques that you can apply when you want to graph a given function. Now, before we move on to sketching graph, let's look at whether the given figures here are functions or non-functions. Now for the first graph, this is a function because as you can see here, if this is my input, the output is somewhere here. If let's say this is my input, then the output can be seen to be somewhere here. So I hope you are able to see that for each input on this line, they correspond to exactly one single output. And so that's the definition of function, which you have seen in the very early part of chapter 6. Now for the second graph, if this is my input, then I have a problem of telling which one is my output because it is actually projected to two different points. So one is on this line and another one is on this line. So this is not a function. Similarly, if for example this is my input, well, the output of this is given by either this point or this point, and because of that, this is also not a function. A function requires you to have only one single output for each input. Now, these are all functions because obviously you can see that, let's say if I have this as my input, my output will be on this point. Similarly, if I consider this to be my input, the output will be on this point. And you can see for this graph and this graph. So those here are functions. And these are quite common functions, and that's why I am presenting them to you guys so that you recognize their shapes with their common mathematical function here. So for example, this is a function that says that y is equal to absolute value of x. So we have this V-shaped graph. Now this is a function where you have y equals to 1 over x, and because of that, the lines here, the graph here never touch x equals to 0, because when x equals to 0, it becomes undefined, and so the lines here, you can see, will never touch this asymptote x equals to 0. Yeah. Now for this one, y is equal to x squared. This is quite common, so the graph here is a smiley graph, and the minimum value will be at 0.00, which is at the origin here. Next is the graph where y is equal to x cubed. So it looks like some sort of S-shaped. So this is quite a common function too. Now it will be good if you remember these common shapes, because then if you are required to sketch a more complicated function, then maybe you can play around with your basic knowledge of common functions here. Alright, let's move on to the next slide. Now, how do we obtain the shape of the graph? Let's say that you are totally clueless on how the shape of the function looks like. So if you are in that position, if you are ever in that position, what you need to do is you need to, start thinking about the values of x. Okay, this is what you need to do. You need to start thinking about the values of x, and then you need to plug the values into the function so that you can find the value of y, for example, and based on that you can plot the points and somehow get the pattern or the shape of that function. So as an example, how do we get the shape for y is equal to absolute value of x? And like I said, if you have no idea whatsoever, you can start by thinking of what values x can take. And it is always wise to think about easy values of x. For example, you can think about values that are easy to be calculated, like, I don't know, -4 maybe, -3, -2, -1. Then maybe you can continue towards positive side, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, we can consider plugging this value here into the function. So function is y equals to absolute value of x, which basically tells you that if you have negative value, it becomes positive. So we have 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And based on that, you can construct the graph. So this may be your simple sketching of the shape of the graph. So even though it's just a simple sketch, try to stick to the scale as much as you can. So this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, -3, -4. This could be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so next I'm just going to plot each pair of x and y. So 1 with 1, 2 with 2, 3 with 3 somewhere here, 4 with 4. So you can see that you get this sort of graph on the positive side. Now move on to the negative side. Maybe somewhere here. And so we connect the dots somewhere like that. So that's how you can get the shape of this function. So that would be the starting point if you totally are clueless on how the shape of the function looks like. Alright, I'll stop here and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.